Thanks for checking out Chamber Web TV. This is Cambridge Votes 2014, a conversation with the candidates for the upcoming October 27th municipal election. I'm Greg DeRoche, your President and CEO of the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce, and it's my pleasure to sit down with Regional Chair candidate Cole Arnal. How are you?
Hello there. I'm well. Greg, good to meet you yet again.
Good to see you, and
right.
Thanks very much for taking the time out of the hustle and bustle and fast-paced world of campaigning.
At my age, you better believe it.
Have you been out there banging on doors?
Not mostly on doors. Most of my work is at the bus terminals because I think
very good.
The people that would support me because of what I stand for are the people who usually don't vote and the people that ride transit. Mm-hmm. And although I've been campaigning before, knocking on doors, I find this approach, limited time, limited money, is the best approach for me.
It's a big region.
You got that right.
And it's very, very difficult to run a campaign across 550,000 people with this geography alone.
You're right. And I go everywhere by transit, so that takes time.
Oh, very good. Good for you.
Well, I like it. I've come to like it.
Yeah.
We won't go in. We probably don't have the time of why I originally decided to do that way back 10 years or so ago.
Yeah.
That's beside the point. It's become a way of life for me, and I like it.
Very good.
You got
awesome. I've got the toughest question for any candidate running in any level of politics ever for you, Oz. Are you ready for this?
I don't know. Hit me with it.
Oz?
Yes?
Why are you running?
Okay, there's an immediate reason and there's a broader reason. The immediate reason is I'm from a group called the Alliance Against Poverty. In effect, I'm their candidate. We're a small group of people who live the life and those of middle income like myself, working together to get rid of poverty. We found that a bus route to the main food hamper program in Kitchener was being shut down, which would mean people would have to walk a quarter of a mile uphill carrying often something weighing 30 kilos, people with disability. We thought this was wrong. We went to the region. Basically, the region shut us down. We've had an answer where the new route, could just swing a little bit around, move one sign, it would have solved the problem. No, in the name of efficiencies, they couldn't do it. So that made us angry enough. We got some publicity on it, and then we decided to run a candidate, and guess who lucked out? Myself. But
Did you luck out? Is it lucked out to be the candidate?
On most days, yes, but on some days, oh no. In any event, though, the broader reason is we want to run a campaign on the basis of the obscene wealth gap. Well, we can get into that and go beyond what the current candidates are doing. And that bus thing was what triggered it for us.
Well, public transportation is important.
You bet.
Absolutely important. There's lots of people that need public transportation.
And they don't have a choice. They have to use it.
That's right. You know, you do have, and it's interesting, through that whole LRT debate that went through, there's these choice riders, and then there's the absolute have-to-have-it riders. And you know, in reality, those are the ones you're building it for. The choice riders, they make any choice that they want. So.
That's right. And that's part of the problem. The choice, the upbeat, the upscale riders lure them in and basically phooey on the rest. And that's what I think a lot of the problem is.
Interesting. This might be interesting.
I hope so.
Regional debt levels have reached all-time highs. Of course, it's been announced in the paper. In fact, I was corrected by one of the regional candidates that it's not just doubled, it's almost closely tripled by the end of this year. And it doesn't include the debt we're going to load on with the LRT as well. As regional chair, Oz, what would you do? What's your feeling on the regional debt, and how do we control it, or do we need to control it?
Okay, I wanted to approach this with two things. First of all, I'm deeply troubled by the bulk of our regional income going to the LRT. In effect, it's going to be over the next 8 years or so, over 50% of regional budget is going in that direction. That's an overload. That I don't like. As far as the debt itself, I don't find that a big deal. Let me explain that. Ken Sealing is right. If you got the credit rating is good. But Ace is right too, you have to watch debt. But we're an anti-austerity group. We don't think the debt's the problem. We think the obscene wealth gap is the problem. If you, at the provincial and federal level, have a fair and equitable tax system, the debt could be wiped out by having the super rich pay their share. Now the problem is municipally, it isn't a fair tax system.
No.
No,
Property taxes are
They're
the
not
most
fair.
unfair. It's the perceived ability to pay.
that's right. And in fact, some of the people at the lower end of the scale who have homes, widows from the Second World War, can't afford that rate. So the way we get around that, and if you want to go there, I'll spell that out. We have a way to try to reduce the wealth gap municipally and then put pressure on the province and the feds. But there wouldn't be a deficit if there weren't tax havens. If the rich, super rich paid their share in a graduated income tax without loopholes, if there were corporate taxes, if the tax havens were taxed, all of this, the deficit would be wiped out.
Boy, can you imagine that?
I
Having
can't,
known
but I
that.
can imagine it, and I can work toward it step by painful step. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Right now, the regional municipality of Waterloo, along with its partners, the lower tier municipalities, are working on they're studying the ideology of creating a regional economic development arm, largely for foreign direct investment, trying to attract employers to come into the region. The region, of course, because of the LRT, is going to have to focus most of their economic development efforts along that LRT line. We're getting it, and until somebody says to me that we're not getting it, it appears we're getting it, and we need to make it work, and we need to focus some attention on building up that central transit corridor with businesses and people living there, so that the LRT is a valued commodity in our region. However, Cambridge is an industrial community. Over 50% of the industrial assessment is in Cambridge for the region of Waterloo. We are the largest per capita factory worker of any other city in the province of Ontario.
I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised to hear it.
But we're an
nonetheless.
industrial community.
I
We
know
are
that.
what we
That
are.
I know.
And,
That I
and
know.
we're an industrial community. We are what we are. We're advanced manufacturing as well. We build satellites right here in Cambridge, so it's not that we're not high tech, but we're high tech industrial community. Cambridge is concerned, or the Chamber's concern, is a little bit. Well, if we have a regional economic development plan, the focus has got to be making sure that the LRT works. Are we going to be left out of economic development? What's your impression on that?
My impression is you already are. And I don't think the LRT is a done deal. I like the idea, but the way it's been handled is a nightmare. Cambridge is still the younger brother, sister shoved aside, and the LRT is proof of it. It seems to me Cambridge is being forced to pay what they're not getting. They're being slapped down and yet still forced to pay. I don't like that one bit. I live in Waterloo, but I like justice. I'm strongly for justice. And I honestly think the fourth, and remind me, I'll give you a copy of the leaflet, but our fourth issue is democracy. Cambridge has been shoved aside democratically. I've talked with your mayor from time to time on this issue. He's said, be alert on this one, Oz. And even traveling to Cambridge by transit, the express takes almost an hour. So there is no effort, it seems to me, to have Cambridge really be on board. You're just expected to pay. And I don't like that one bit. Now, I think the first thing I would do as regional chair is, I would say maybe I'm bunching questions together, I don't care.
Yeah.
But with the LRT, I think everything's still on the board. I think that we need, and one of the things I do if elected is I would get Cambridge people together, labor, business, community organizations, say what can be done? Can we slow it down? Should we slow it down? Should we vote against it? Maybe. Should we vote for it, but insist on more our rights and not just we pay?
Well, as you probably know, the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce was opposed to the LRT. We weren't opposed for public transportation. We believe in, we need a good, effective public
You're darn right we
transportation
do.
system. We were opposed, and we thought that the technology was the wrong technology and at the wrong time. We thought should look out of the box a little bit. After all, this is where the BlackBerry came from. This is what changed the world from a communications perspective. We should be able to change the world from a transportation perspective as well. However, that said, it appears we've got it. I suppose regional council could overturn it and stop it in its tracks, no pun intended.
Okay.
However, we have to say at this point, it's a go. They're digging, they're doing the things
They
that they
are.
need to do
They
to lay the track. However, we have a premier in there that has promised billions of dollars in infrastructure and has even made comment that stage 2 might be able to be advanced We have a member of that government that is now the MPP in Cambridge. What would you do as regional chair to maybe help advance that so that we could get the LRT
Okay,
system?
again, I
Because
would,
it's all predicated on ridership.
okay, two things. Let me just, three things, now you brought up ridership. I don't think it's necessarily good forethought to try to lure huge populations in to have a voluntary ridership that is not yet existent. And I think, for example, the current LRT is a mall-to-mall boondoggle.
Yep.
Now, I like what you said. If indeed it's a given, I would say, I am not I'm neither anti nor for. I love the idea. But I think what needs to be done is you need to get the people, the pressure needs to come from Cambridge, pressure, saying, all right, you want us to do this? This is what we expect. I'd even go so far as to say, democratically, Cambridge could say, we're out of the region. We're going out of the region. We're going toward Guelph. We're going toward Toronto, like the GO train thing. I don't think that should be on the table. Everything should be on the table. Find out how much it would cost to cancel it, how much legal cost, how much waste of time, how much cost would it cost to slow it down till we get some good decision making, or do we go full steam ahead? I think that needs to be on the table. I think we need to talk about that.
Do you think there's a possibility, given that in fact the federal and provincial funding for the LRT wasn't contingent or hung on a train, it was rapid public transportation?
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Do you think that could go back to the drawing board and the construction company or the consortium that's there and say, look, we've changed, we're not going to put tracks, we're going to do a bus system, a rapid bus system?
That should still be on the table. It should still be discussed. Okay, hold it a little, let's slow it down. How much would it cost to slow it down? Let's consider all options. And I mean all options.
Because it might not cost, they're bantering around $250 million to cancel the LRT. Well, maybe if you just changed it from LRT to bus, it might not be $250 million. It could be something less.
Well, another undemocratic facet is all the secrecy around it. And they say, well, there's a law protecting corporations from sharing their technical ability. But what about the money part? That is also blackened out. That needs covered. That's our money. We need to know it on the table.
I think most corporations understand when they're dealing with government, it's a little different level.
I would hope so.
It needs to be more transparent.
You do.
Just,
Well, and transparency's nonsense.
it's public money. It's your money.
You're darn
and my money.
right. You're darn right. Transparency's nonsense unless you have it. Everybody's for it. It's like everybody's for culture. But let's see how transparency. For one thing, you check regional budgets. You've got a bulk thing, salary and benefits, it's bulk. I'd like that broken down. I'd like to see how much the top guns get as compared to the secretaries and do some reduction there too. Let's have real budget transparency. And while I'm on my transparency kick, one thing I would do if elected, I would become itinerant. I would try to find office space in Cambridge, be there for 2 months, be in Kitchener 2 months, be in Waterloo 2 months, be in the townships. Move around, for crying out loud. Just don't hunker down in a regional office. I think that's mighty important. In fact, one thing Cambridge gave me, I didn't realize, it's surprised. Danny the Barber, where I'm going after this.
Yeah.
Ran into the guy. I want to go there, like my barber of old.
Danny's our barber.
That's what I hear.
There's no question about it.
Well, that's where I'm going after this.
That's very good.
Okay.
You mentioned GO.
Yeah.
GO is critically important for Cambridge. We've been fighting for, should change that, not fighting. We've been lobbying for it for over 30 years.
I know.
For a long, long time. It's wonderful that Kitchener has Go service now. It's wonderful, even more wonderful, that the Premier's come along and said, we're going to do two-way all day from Kitchener. However, if you live in the south end of Kitchener or in Cambridge, you're not going to go all the way back up into Kitchener to take a 2-hour plus ride into Toronto. In Cambridge, we got 18 kilometers to hook up to the Milton track.
Bingo.
And most of those, that would service the south end of the region as well as Cambridge. And in reality, we know we have lots of commuters. We see them all the time.
That's the point.
So what would you do as regional chair to help us get our goal?
I would get you folks angrier and angrier and say, let's raise hell, frankly. That needs to be done because that is so obvious. And it's, again, another example of Cambridge being shortchanged, not counting. Blue collar, not counting. And it's time to just say, yes, we want it, we want it, we want it, and we're going to negotiate for it. You don't give us that, then we're not going to cooperate on this. It's time to really stand up and say, stop it. I really believe that. I do.
You sound mean sometimes, Oz, and I know you're not mean.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes I could, I was trained as a preacher, so I can get pretty loud
Attaboy, yeah,
and
yeah,
obnoxious
yeah, yeah.
even. Yes.
Another thing, speaking of transportation, it seems that we're all only talking about transportation, but it's critically important. We got to move people. That's how the world goes around. Our airport, I love our airport. I love the service out of there. Mm-hmm. I take it as often as I can, even though people say, it's a pain in the neck to have to fly to O'Hare and then change planes. I love it. You know why I love it, Oz?
Tell me.
And you need to try it sometimes with me.
What
They
do you
got the
love?
best burgers in O'Hare Airport you can absolutely find anywhere. And I make sure
In the U.S.
in the U.S. of A, they got great burgers.
Okay.
And I always make sure that I got about an hour and a half before I have to get my next flight so that I can make sure I have my burger. But what I'm really pointing to is it's a great service that we need to use and make sure we use so that we don't lose it. We lost Bearskin, not at any fault of our own. Those flights were just about full going back and forth to Ottawa, but Bearskin lost its privilege to land in Ottawa, and that's really, then there was
Do you
no
know
reason.
why that was, by any chance?
Contractual obligations and things like that.
okay.
Bearskin couldn't fulfill it, and I
Okay.
think they lost it to Porter, quite frankly, because Porter needed more access.
The
into Ottawa.
raccoon in Toronto. Yeah.
The raccoon in Toronto. But that said, we're working very hard right
Okay.
now, trying to bring in another carrier for that Ottawa flight. WestJet seems to be talking about building and strengthening
That'd be
their
nice.
presence.
WestJet's
yeah,
good,
uh,
yeah.
WestJet's very, very good. The region recently went through a study.
Yeah.
There are 4 recommendations came
Okay.
out. One was do nothing.
Yep.
Option number 2 was do nothing except paint the outside of the building. I say that facetiously, but there were little enhancements. Option 3 got into saying, in reality, if we want to expand the airport, if we want to make it a viable airport, we need to bring in private sector dollars. We can't rely on public sector dollars anymore. In fact, what we should be doing is trying to mitigate the $6 million that the region throws in, try and lessen that, and look after more private sector investment to try and build our airport out. What do you think of our airport, and do you think it's worth expanding?
Yeah, but I've got my cautions on it. First of all, I love it too. And I accept your deal if you'll pay for my flight.
Yeah.
But that being considered a bribe, I hope not, just to get that burger. I actually went to a conference in O'Hare and took it. It was wonderful.
Yeah, it's great.
It is.
Hour, boom, boom.
Boom, yeah, exactly. And a smaller plane
Yeah,
and
yeah.
cozy. But I also use it about 3 times a year to visit my sister-in-law. My wife and I visit my sister-in-law and brother-in-law in Saanich and Vancouver Island.
Oh, yeah.
So we go to Calgary and then into Victoria.
Isn't it wonderful to drive like 10 minutes from your home and you're...
Not only that, it's a sane airport.
Yeah.
That I personally love it. But I have to say also, to me, the key is that share the wealth thing. I'm for everything that you say about the airport as long as the other elements in my platform don't suffer for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it.
Well, you know what's really interesting? When you, and I haven't mentioned this to other candidates, but you bring up the transportation and then the airport thing and the LRT and all that. Minneapolis-St. Paul, they finished the first leg of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
They waited until they were over 1 million people. They're now putting in the other leg, the St. Paul leg, I believe, or vice versa, whatever it is. But they connected it to the airport. So the LRT lines actually come from the airport and go out to the respective communities and down the main drag.
Which is a good idea.
Well,
yeah.
it goes by the Mall of Americas.
Yeah.
They have 20,000 people that work in the Mall of Americas
I like that,
alone.
yeah.
It goes by the baseball stadium. It goes by the football stadium,
Mm-hmm.
the basketball arena. It goes by all the places people want to go and would prefer to take public transportation because you don't want to pay $25 to park your car.
And also fight through, if you drive into a city.
Should our airport be connected? If we connected our public transportation system to our airport, do you think that in and of itself would inspire growth?
I think it's a good idea, frankly. Just off the top of my head, I like it. And I do like the airport, but the other priorities of my campaign, I want to be honest,
Yeah.
are those. And if those don't suffer, bingo, I'm with you 100%. But that's an if, you see?
Oz, this has been amazing, but I got a really interesting question.
Okay.
Because sometimes it's maybe difficult for guys our age to think way out into the future. But it shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't
Because
be.
we know what we've lived.
That's right.
We understand the mistakes that we made. We know concisely the problems that we create.
Yes, I've made 3 mistakes in my life, I think, merely 3. No, I'm glad you laughed, because you do know we make a lot of mistakes.
Absolutely. What do you think the regional Waterloo looks like in 25 years?
You mean my dreams?
Yeah.
I want to quote this, because I don't want to miss anything, because I dream dreams. In fact,
Well, what did Walt Disney say about that?
I don't know about
If you
Walt
can
Disney.
dream it, you can do it.
Okay, but I like better what Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. And it was his death that turned my life around, so you can see by my dream why that may be. I see a region of shared prosperity where no one's homeless, where all live decently and humanely on the income of a living wage, where disability and social assistance rates are pre-Mike Harris pegged to inflation, where public transit is free and accessible to all, where our healthcare system and educational institutions are available to all equally, where the environment is habitable for all species, where farmer and factory worker know much about each other, where all forms, not just high culture, abound, where children can learn and play safely, where bullying of GLBT people is a thing of the past, where leisure, learning, work, and play are in balance, where women no longer have to take back the night, where First Nations people and values shape us more directly and personally, and where all religions are welcome in a joyous multicultural society. I read it because I didn't want to forget any of it, but that's a serious, dreams have shaped me ever since 1968, and they'll shape me till my last breath.
But that's realistic stuff.
I think it is. I think we can do it. It's not easy,
No?
and the forces of resistance are strong, but I think if we get off our knees, well, I like to pray on my knees, but you get off your knees and you're willing to join in solidarity with people, you can build a better world.
Yeah, it's like my daughter was filling out a form the other day to go to We Day. And, so I kind of searched it online. What is We Day really all about? What do the founders think of it? And it's really about We Day, but the most important part about it is the We Act portion.
Mm-hmm.
It's great to sit there for a day and be inspired and motivated, but you got to walk out of that place and put into action what you're inspired to do.
Walk the talk.
Yeah.
Another plus for Cambridge, and it's been, I got a big learning curve on Cambridge because getting here is whoa. But we were at the Self-Help Food Bank.
Yeah.
What a masterpiece of humanity. Now, I know the areas in Kitchener, Waterloo. They're peace here, and they're good people.
Yeah.
Some of them are close friends. But it's food here, it's this here, but it's a whole thing, it's holistic. There's faith there, there's trusting of people, there's a sharing of food, it's a co-op. What a model. And you know when I
We
see...
have a great leader there, too.
Yes, what's her name again? Pat, is it?
Yeah, Pat Singleton.
Yeah, and then Diane's a great, and
Yeah.
June, who does the spiritual stuff. I know her. She and I both had a close friend who died of cancer in her late 40s. But
Pat
that's a
Singleton's
model.
a great leader for that and a great champion. We're all proud of Pat Singleton.
With good reason.
Yeah.
They say, whoever the they is, that Waterloo's an A community, Kitchener's C, and Cambridge is D. Well, with that self-help thing alone, you're A and Waterloo is D. Kitchener might be a B, and you can show that to them too.
It will be.
Okay, well, I'll live with it.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for checking out Chamber Web TV. This is Cambridge Votes 2014, a conversation with the candidates for the October 27th municipal election. Again, I'm Greg DeRocher, and it's been a real pleasure to sit down with Cole Arnal.
Indeed, and with you too,
Regional
Greg.
regional chair candidate.
Yep. Indeed.
Good luck and have fun.
So far, so good.
And make sure you get your message out.
I plan on it big time.
Thanks very much and good luck.
Thanks, Greg.